I am really, really upset and scared. Scared that our RV life and van life as we know it is coming to an end unless something is done about this serious problem. Come on, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about. I was in a Walmart store last evening picking up a few supplies, and one of the cashiers is a Globie. She watches my channel, and she came up to me and she said, "Well, they did it again." And, I'll bite. So, of course, I asked, "Well, what did they do it again and who did it again?" And she said, "Some RVers. They were in the parking lot." And she said, "Last night, just around closing, a couple of RVs pulled in. They weren't together. One got out, put a barricade all the way around his motorhome, and pulled out his barbecue grill and started barbecuing." She said he had it laid out like he was at a campground. He then, when he left, and I'm presuming he left the following morning, when he left a huge mess, including his briquettes and all of his barbecue trash and everything. He just up and left. And the store had to have a crew go out and clean it. Also, the second, which I think was a van or something, I'm not sure, but she said that person poured some kind of oil or grease out of his RV all over the parking lot. So they had to have a crew over there scrubbing with soap and all kinds of cleaning materials to clean the parking lot. I was so upset when I heard that, because what's going to happen is pretty soon there will be no Walmarts across the country that allow decent RVers and campers to spend the night on their property. It's not only going to be Walmart, it's going to be Cracker Barrel, it's going to be all the other box stores. Everywhere that has kind of either specifically allowed us to park there or just turned a blind eye when we do park there is going to be enforcing no parking very soon if something is not done. I also talked to some van life folk the other day that I ran across who had been on a long cross-country trip, and they told me that they stopped at several of the BLM locations that they had previously overnight parked at, and they were no longer available for camping. That the camping areas were shut down and the BLM lands were no longer, or those BLM lands were no longer allowing overnight parking. I am scared, folks. I am really scared. I'm scared that boondocking as we know it, the privilege of staying at different places overnight when you're on a long trip and you just need some place to get some peaceful and safe sleep, those places are going to be shut down. If you drive around, you can already see so many cities have signs up now that anything over a certain height, usually it's 7 feet now, and a certain length and a certain width, is prohibited from parking on the streets. That either you can't park on the streets at all in many cities, or you can't park on the streets after a certain time. There are also more and more places where parking is prohibited for everyone, overnight parking, where you can't park from either 10 p.m. at night or midnight until about 6 in the morning. And those are the hours that we need to sleep if we're on the road traveling. So something needs to be done. And I'm wondering, is there anyone out there that has any ideas of what we could do? I don't think it's safe probably to approach anyone who's behaving irresponsibly like that, because their response to criticism or suggestions is probably not going to be very good, and it might even be violent. So I'm not advising that, but I'm wondering, do you think that perhaps decent RVers and van life folk could maybe form some kind of group and maybe approach some of these stores or management of these businesses and maybe offer some helpful suggestions and ideas that would help businesses to control the problem that they're having with these irresponsible RVers, but would still permit people like you and I, who would never do some of these crazy things, that would allow us to still park there safely and get a good night's sleep on the road. If you have any suggestions, could you put it down in the comments? I am really feeling like a person who's about to watch a train wreck and cannot stop it. This is going to be a RV and van life train wreck, and I just can't think of a way to stop it because of these irresponsible people. You know, there are at least more places to park on BLM land on the west coast and on the west end of the country. But when you get towards the east coast, there are less BLM locations. So people who cannot afford a hotel every night, and let's face it, how many of us can afford when we're tired and need a good night's sleep to go and get a hotel every night, are really going to be in trouble, are going to have a serious problem. And I am just scared that that's what's coming down the pike. What do you think? Do you think that eventually they're going to mess it up for everyone and we're not going to have parking places to park overnight? And if that happens, that's what I've been thinking about. As I'm taking trips, overnight parking is going to be a challenge, I believe. And I've been wondering and thinking, what am I going to do? What other options will I have? Boondockers welcome, perhaps harvest hosts. These cost money, but not as much as a hotel because they're annual fees for these organizations. But I've been trying to figure out what I will do because I want to, as I said earlier, I think I want to take a cross-country trip and maybe a few, and also up and down the coast and even to Alaska. So I've been trying to think, what am I going to do and how I'm going to handle it? How would you handle it if all the boondocking, well, most of the boondocking, at least at big box stores, Walmarts, and those types of things, what would you do if that happened and how would you handle it? Can you put a comment in the comment section and let me know? All right, well, I don't mean to rant, and I hope this wasn't a rant, but this is a serious concern that's going to impact us all out there on the road. And maybe, again, we can put our heads together and come up with a solution to head off this train wreck before it actually happens. All right, folks, I will see you down the road. Hopefully I'll be able to go down the road and find parking. But anyhow, I'll see you down the road. All right, take care.